Our next speaker is Valerie Lemme. I think a lot of you here know her. I think she is one of our facilitators. I think she's been to a lot of the meetings. And I'm going to read an introduction to Valerie. Just do it in big print like ours. Okay. Valerie Lemme has been with Powerful You since our first meeting. She'll speak to us today about the principles of future visioning. Valerie is a certified hypnotist, hypnotherapist, journey work practitioner, and is now an accredited future visioning coach. She will show us how to take 5 steps to begin to heal your body, transform your life, and your relationships. Relationship repair is a method that takes a relationship that matters to you and is still either hitting the rocks or a bit bumpy and transform it into the relationship you and the other person really long for. She'll introduce you to some of the fundamentals in the process so you can start to imagine yourself in your ideal relationship and those around you shifting easily and quickly so you can manifest your dreams and desires. The reason Valerie can talk about this is because it happened to her. She transformed her marriage when it was headed for divorce into a warm, loving union she now shares with her husband, Tom. They live in Bergen County, New Jersey, and Tom is a graphic designer. Valerie works with clients all over the world via telephone and Skype. She's an accomplished illustrator and has her work manufactured internationally. She loves hot yoga, studying metaphysics, and listening to Lazarus. Her son Jared lives in Delray Beach, Florida, and they stay in touch regularly. Her ability to transform the lives of her clients and to be fully present with her family and friends brings her a joy beyond words. She is grateful simply being alive at this most wonderful time on planet Earth. Ladies, I present Valerie Lemme.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so just for a moment, just give me the pleasure of just looking at you. Wow. Everyone should come up here and just do that. It's just amazing. So, first of all, I am just so thrilled to be here. This is a dream come true for me. Dream come true. And isn't that what life is all about? Making dreams come true into reality? Yeah, and I get to do that all the time. The fact is, most of my clients who work with me get to have their dreams come true. And this is a wonderful thing. I'm just going to get this. Okay. So, how many people in this room ever had to face or admit that a very important relationship was over or coming to an end? Right, yeah, so many of us, right? So you understand. So you understand that relationships are not simple, right? In those moments when you were thinking, uh-oh, and maybe you saved that relationship. It's possible, because I did, and I know that that is possible. But I had already had a couple of times when I didn't, and I knew what that felt like. And it was demoralizing and devastating. So, for instance, at that time, there's a complexity of emotions that come up for us, right? It's like anger. At yourself, at the other person, that's very common. Acceptance, dread, even maybe a little relief sometimes will come into the picture. Right? Okay. So the fact is the reason why relationships are so complex is because you are, maybe you've already heard this before, you are 2 universes merging. And that's a big deal. 2 universes coming together to try to understand and communicate to each other. So I want you to turn to the person next to you, and if you don't mind, give it a high five, and just say, "You are amazing. You survived," and then say this, "You survived universes merging." And by the way, this is true for any relationship, really, even just a stranger walking by, but that kind of happens so quickly, you know? But I'm sure many people in this room have had those, what do you call them, earth angels, that have just said something to you at the right time, and you just went, oh my God, I needed to hear that. And then you turn around and, where are they? No, I don't know. They're gone. So that happens sometimes. But I'm really talking now about marriages, long-term committed relationships, being a child or being a parent. Because when these happen, well, you're merging together for many, many years to come. And so it's a different challenge. And for the sake of the talk today, I want you to understand that I might be talking a lot about my relationship with my husband because it's so primary, but my relationship with my family improved, my relationship with my friends improved, my relationship with my clients improved. So this can be applied anywhere in your life. Okay? This understanding, this awareness. Okay, I'm just going to put this down. Okay, so how many of you, and I bet you, I'd be surprised if anybody keeps their hand down here, how many people here know that wanting or needing another person to complete you is the kiss of death? Okay. How many people have done it anyway? I knew it. I had been told, right? Intellectually, it was like, yeah, no one can complete me. And then emotionally, boom, there was my inner child going, I need a parent. And that doesn't work in an adult relationship. So, okay. And the other thing I want to just find out, just to know who's here in the room, is how many people here are married or in a long-term relationship? Okay, ooh, a lot. Okay, and how many of you wonderful women are single? Awesome. Okay, great. Both incredible places to be, if that's what you want, right? I mean, it's wonderful. Okay, great. And I want to acknowledge that if you are in this room, regardless of that status, it means that you want to improve your life, you want to connect deeply with other people, and you want to learn new things. I pretty much think that that would be true for everyone who's here. I know that's me. So I also want to invite you into the fact that this took me, what I'm going to talk to you about in total, okay, and I want to really preface this, took me about 2 years. But the biggest leap forward happened in about 3 weeks. So my relationship went from ending to surviving in 3 weeks. Then there was the refinement that happened over the 2-year period of time. So what I want to invite you into is the fact that now that I've done it, and I was just actually on a phone call at lunch as a guest on a teleseminar with my mentor, Ty Kane, who originated Future Visioning, and he was saying that before me, he actually thought that someone had to do the 40 years of his life in order to be qualified to do this work. And I was the first one who came along that just was like, I called him up after this teleseminar where I heard him and I just said, I'm doing it. He goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm applying the techniques that you just told me about in the teleseminar. And he was like, you are? I said, yeah, and I want to study with you and learn more. And he goes, okay, great. And that's how it all began. And then I trained someone, and now she's training people over in Germany, and this is growing. So soon our, hope will be that people will recognize the name Future Visioning, because it's actually really beautiful. Okay, so I want to tell you a little bit about my journey, my relationship, and where it is now. So my husband and I, we love each other profoundly. We're just not tolerating each other. It's not like, yeah, I stayed. okay, because it was more convenient. No, no, no. We truly love each other. We look forward to the times that we spend together. We are each other's best friends and confidants. We talk about our days when we get together at the end of the day. We do chores together, we support and help each other, but most importantly, and this is what I want to talk to you about, we share a bright future together. So, I'm just going to ask the question, and it's a trick question, so I'm telling you ahead of time it's a trick question. How many people in the room think the past creates the present? But tell the truth. How many people think the past creates the present? Great, okay. Trick question. What I've come to understand is that the future creates the present against the backdrop of the past. Wow. Wait a minute. The first time I heard that, my brain just went, wait a minute, roll back. I had been out walking my dog, I think, when I walked my dog. Well, she's gone now, but I used to. And I was actually thinking about Einstein's theory about time folding back on itself. This is what I think about when I'm out walking my dog. And so when I heard Ty talk about the future creates the present, everything suddenly just made all this sense to me. And now my husband and I, when we were having all the trouble that we had, we didn't see a bright future together because we were looking at the past, and the past had been riddled with all these negative beliefs about love, all these negative beliefs about life, and we were bringing it to the relationship, and that's what we were experiencing. And so when we were projecting into the future, which your brain does no matter what you think, it just does that. That's what the prefrontal cortex does in your brain. It is always projecting. What's going to happen next? What is she going to say? What's the end of this sentence? When is she going to sit down and leave me alone? Or whatever it is that you're thinking right now, right? So, but most people don't know that you create the future. Most people think it just happens to you. You're just going to get there wherever you go. So anyway, so we started to have a shared bright future. And the end result is that I am now, and I heard him say this for the first time when we were in the program, and again, that was like, did he just say that I was the love of his life? Yep, he did. In the middle, when our marriage was heading for the rocks. And I was like, oh, this is something to consider. And so now that's what I am. I'm the love of his life. And he is the man of my dreams. And that's the interesting part. Right? Right? I know, because we're all sitting there going, oh, the men, the men. I know, right? Hey, listen, I want to tell you something really cool that I found in metaphysical or emotional healing work. Women, you are the engine. Men are the cabooses. So I am really glad I am talking to a lot of engines here. This is wonderful. Yeah, so we were married now for about 17 years, and 3 years ago, that's about 2 years and 3/4, that's when we were in our very, very dark place. And we tried everything to bridge the gap, trust me. Therapy, different healing modalities. I even went and became a hypnotherapist because I thought that would help, you know. And all of a sudden that gap was as big for me emotionally as the Grand Canyon. And every time I walked in my house, that's what I was walking into. And so this was going to impact every area of my life, because there's no way you can be, I think, in an unhappy relationship, no matter where it is in your life, and not have it impact you. We do, we have impact on each other. And then at that time, now we've been talking about honesty and vulnerability, and I'm going to actually talk to you about this now. And let me tell you, this is not easy. I'm not kidding you. What I'm going to tell you now is very personal to me. Because at that time, out of my frustration and my inability to know how to deal, I turned to another person to seek the love that I wasn't getting in my marriage. Now, I know that a lot of people, it's usually, the man, but it was me. And with this work, one of the things that I did was I recognized, and a lot of people tell you, oh, if you talk to your partner about infidelity, that's just selfish. It's not selfish at all. Really, not at all. It is imperative. It's imperative for us to be honest. You are only as sick as your secrets. I think Freud said that. So there I was, and by the way, I'm just going to tell you that I'm not proud of this. Oh my God, if I could erase it from my life, I would. But I know that my husband and I are examples of what true remorse and forgiveness can bring about in a person's life. So there's a really great power in me telling you the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. I mean, it was so bad at that time that I couldn't even focus on a simple task. I would listen to books on tape and I would have to rewind and rewind. And I'm really good at being focused usually, but this took me out of integrity. So my heart was no longer in my healing practice at the time, because despite people having healing, I noticed a pattern that, I would get rid of their headache, or their, the cyst that they had on their knuckle would go away and disappear. But then something else would crop up in another area of their life. And then it would be like, okay, let's go fix that now. And then something else, let's go fix that. So it's like really like, oh my gosh, this is kind of odd. And then when I first met Ty, and we did something, I think I have it up here somewhere, and this is something that I do with my clients. And I think a lot of you are coaches here, so you will, the wheel, the wheel, the expanding your success wheel. It's a little different than what a lot of coaches, it's not in the package. But it is going to be something that I'm going to be offering upcoming, and I'll tell you how to get your hands on it, because this changed my life. And by the way, at the time when I looked at percentage-wise how I was doing, I was at about a 25-30% of my full potential. And now I'm in the 90s. So that's not bad, 70% improvement over a couple of years. And it, like I said, it happened really quickly in the first, 3 weeks. But anyway. All right, so then I heard about future visioning. And in about 15 minutes, my skepticism, because I was very skeptical at that time, because I had tried everything. I have an ebook that's launching on Amazon later on today. Please, 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 From Agony to Ecstasy. I have cards on my table. This is really like a guide to what I did and how I got through my journey. What happened was, at the time, I was so disillusioned about everything. I call it my 0 point, but now that I am talking about the success wheel, I think it's more like my 25% in life wheel, right, or a moment. But I just didn't want anything anymore. So what happened for me was when I saw this whole thing for the first time talking to Ty, because he was actually talking about doing healing work with clients and having it be fun. Fun, in the same sentence as, yes, I do healing work. Now, I don't know about you, but for me, it wasn't. It was laborious, it was difficult, it was intense. And he was talking about having it be light and happy and fun. And I'll give you a little bit of a confession. Talk about guilty pleasure. I actually confessed to, I just ended a teleseminar last night, and I said to my clients, I said, so, here's the dirty truth. After I have a session with you, I walk away exhilarated. So that's my guilty pleasure, that I get exhilaration from working with my clients. So hearing Ty be so enthusiastic, I was like, oh my God, that was like amazing. And so I knew I wanted to study with Ty. And I also knew that I could tell him the truth. So that's what happened. Oh, and there's another thing too. People were talking today about passion, and there's there's a lot of half-truths that go around, and those half-truths can really stop you in your tracks. And one of the things that I work with people is to really take the half-truths out so that you can really go all the way to the end where your goal is. And here's a half-truth. Be detached. A lot of people talk about detachment. I was like, something's wrong with this whole idea that there's something called detachment. So one night I just decided I'm going to talk to Ty about this. And I said, Ty, tell me about detachment. And he goes, doesn't work. I said, great, thank you for that very, So what does work? And he said, oh, be attached to your bright future. I said, oh, that makes so much sense. Have the total commitment and passion that what you see, Sue was talking about this in her talk today. Have it be so great that the little bumps in the road or the obstacles that come up, you will go forward anyway. So you've got to be very attached to the right thing. You have to really care, not care. And that was like another mind blower. I was like, oh, this is cool. I can really, I can bring that passion. And then what happens when you do that is you start to have an easy life. An easy life filled with grace. Yeah, and struggle can be gone. Okay, so turn to somebody else sitting next to you, give them a high five and say, you are a powerful creator. You are a powerful creator. Awesome. Okay, so, okay, everybody, back up here. Oh, you're having so much fun with that. That's cool. Okay, so you are a powerful spiritual being pretending to be a human being. That's the truth. And this is what I teach the people who work with me. You're a powerful spiritual being. The fact is, you are in training to be, and I'm bringing this in a little early. Well, there's a man. You are in training to be God and Goddess someday. Tiny piece. And this is another thing that I tell my clients. You are not made by God or Goddess. You're made of God and Goddess energy. That changes everything. It really does. Now, why am I talking about this? Why am I not talking about relationships? Because what you bring to the relationship is yourself. Why do I talk about this wheel? Because if you don't have every area of your life working, what do you think you bring to your relationship? The deficits, as well as where you're doing okay. So when my husband and I did this work, we had to both do the separate program and then come together and do it together. That's how we did it. So you never stop working on yourself, ever. And I'm going to give you some other tools so you can see that this is like really cool. Okay, so I'm really committed to getting you to see the power of your future. And if somebody doesn't really understand this, and this is quantum physics, by the way, and if someone doesn't really understand this, but the one thing a lot of people talk about, the future, your past. See, someone once told me, you can't change your past. Sure you can. You can. I'm not kidding you. You can change your past. You can't predict your future. What was it Abraham Lincoln said? The best way to predict the future is to create it. And you can create it. So you can have a real relationship with your future self, and you can have a real relationship with your inner child. When you start to do that, and understand that a lot of people talk about being in the now, and that's like 25% of the equation. It's wonderful. 33%. But then there's also the future and the past. And if you don't have both going on, you're only operating at 33%. So when you have all of them happening at the same time, and you're with someone who has all of them happening at the same time, is what happens. That, I think, says more than 1,000 words, right? Okay, sure. So, all right, so this is my analogy. So why do you need, and you know what really keeps people together? A shared future. That's what keeps people together, when you share a future with a person. And if you share a future for 10 minutes, that person will be in your life for 10 minutes. If you share a future with somebody for 20, 30 years, that person will be in your life for 20, 30 years. That's what determines our relationships. Okay, so now somebody else talked about this. I don't know which, I was listening to the speakers, and this is amazing because you know it all builds, and we're all very smart women, and that's lovely. So what I want to do is I want you to just do a little exercise with me, okay? And for this one, yeah, okay, I want you to stand up. Is that okay with everybody? Now, you can think about this for relationships, because we're going to be getting into that a little bit deeper, or you can just do it for anything in your life right now. But, and do me a favor and face a way that you can take a little step forward and not hit a chair or another person or somebody's purse. Okay? Okay, good. Thank you, everyone. All right. Okay, so now, close your eyes. Take a breath. Let it out. Another deep breath. And just let it go. Okay, good. Now, what challenges are you facing now? Think of a relationship or a problem, something that you'd love to solve, or even if it's just with yourself, that's okay. All right. Now, how does that make you feel, the problem? Just think about the feeling that's in your body. And if you want to whisper or say it out loud, you can. If you want to say it internally, if you're more shy and like that, you can do it too. Look ahead on the count of 3. Whatever comes up, whatever feeling. 1, 2, 3. Good. Okay, great. Thank you. All right, so now I want you to ask an important question. Where do you want to be 6 months or a year? So close your eyes again, and I want you to imagine that you have overcome that obstacle, and you are now there, basking in the glow of success, that you have found the strategic steps and tools to do that. Just breathe that in now, and I want you to take a little step into that. Just step forward into that. There you go. Really fully breathe it in. How does that make you feel? And you can either shout it out or just whisper it or just say it internally. What's the feeling that's here? 1, 2, 3. Love the woohoo. That was great. Okay, great. Okay, thank you, everybody. So that's the power of the future. When you see it, instantly your physiology will change. Instantly. Okay, so we already know, I've said, and the part about this that I actually call, and a lot of people, is like retraining your brain. The 3% of the most successful people in the world have a bright future. And most of them don't know it. They just do it automatically. The other 85 to 97% of us have an uncertain or a dark future. But you can retrain your brain. You can actually start to anticipate that you will be getting where you want to go. And it is a game changer. This is not just a little technique that will fall away over time, like a lot of the other techniques. This has legs. It will keep going. Also, a dark and uncertain future always leads to pain. Physical, emotional, and self-sabotaging blocks. That's just what happens. Okay. So, here's the solution. You maintain an ongoing relationship with your wise future self, but the best one, the most incredible one, is the wise old you at the end of your life. Because you know what I've discovered? Me sitting there, that picture of me that I had tears falling down my face when I first imagined my wise old me sitting on this wall looking over these dunes on a beach. You know what I discovered? She had a bright future ahead of her. It wasn't over. For her, it was just beginning. And that was amazing. And I realized this goes on into eternity. Eternity. Okay, so that's the way to do it. And I'm going to do that later. Someone remind me at the end. I have something for you to write down on your handouts that's not, listed there, but I want you to write it down. Okay, so now, this is another secret that we had to learn, and this is controversial. Again, I'm just going to ask a little bit of a survey in the room. How many people think a relationship is a 50-50 deal? 50%, 50%. Okay, I know most of the people in here are doing 80%, 20%. I know that. But it's not. It's not a 50-50 deal. And what my husband and I had to face was that it was 100%, 100%. Because if you're doing 50 or 80 or even 90% and thinking that other person's the 10%, what's happening? You're pointing the finger towards somebody else. And you're letting go of responsibility for your reality creation. You create your reality 100% by either causing or allowing. And when you give up any fraction to any circumstances or another person, you're not standing in your power. Not really. So, here's another thing. A lot of people think that first, in order for them to have a breakthrough, they have to have a breakdown. I am here to tell you that that is not necessary at all. Not even close. This is a paradigm change, and what happened to me is I actually realized that I could grow through success, love, joy, and happiness instead of pain, sorrow, confusion, chaos. Struggle. That was my big one, struggle. A lot of people struggle. And actually, in my continuing education, I actually teach people that struggle is a form of being a victim. Most people don't know that. They think a victim is oh, poor me, I want attention, which is true. That is the overt victim. Most of us aren't that. But if we're struggling, we think we have to be perfect. We have to try really hard to get it right, to have our good come to us. That's a form of victim. And when you bring victim, or something else I teach, which is martyrhood, into your relationships, again, it's not going to work. All right. So, did that. So, there is a cool 4-part technique to changing any negative or limited reality in your life. And this I suggest you write down. And if you want to know more about it, you can contact me, come over to the table after I'm done and I'll talk to you. But there's 4 parts. And if you skip one of the parts, you will not get the change that you want. The first one is to recognize. Recognize that it's a limited or negative reality creation. So one of the things that this happens is it's being honest about the good and bad in your life. Now there's many of us in here, and I was one of them, who tried to put a positive spin on everything, right? Oh, it's all happening for a reason. It doesn't really, no. No, it's not. Really, it's not. You need to change. If there's something that's not working in your life and you feel yucky about it, congratulations. Your GPS, somebody else was talking about GPS, your GPS is working. It's telling you, you are going down the wrong road. So that's stop. So recognize limited or negative reality, right? Okay, then the next step is acknowledge. Who's creating it? Always me. I can't talk for you, but I can tell you, always me. If I want to transform it, it's always me, okay? 100%. I'm creating this negative by either causing or allowing. This is complexity, but it works. And there are some people in the room who can attest to this, that other people shifted without even having a conversation with them when they did this work. That's the cool part, because this is magical. The next part is to understand the cost, to really face the cost. So a lot of people think, and I'm going to tell you another really incredible secret, but don't use this against somebody because they don't understand or know it. What I did, having that, relationship outside of my marriage was because of how angry I was at my husband. It wasn't because I was missing the love. Nope. I was vengeful. And I wanted to hurt everybody, including my son, my precious son. And I had to face this inside myself, and let me tell you something, that was the greatest pain I have ever faced in my life. And it transformed everything, because I was honest about it. That was horrible and terrible. This is the first time I faced martyrhood in my life, and what I like to call the terrorist in me, where you take other people. Because one time I had this amazing vision. I'll just tell you this real fast. It just came to me. I was just sitting there, I was reading this one book called The Goddess Core, pure, but now we have, From Agony to Ecstasy, which is going to be just as vitally life-changing for people. And I was just sitting there, and all of a sudden I saw this moment in time, whenever, through eons or whatever, when I was being offered a clear path to success, smooth, here you go, Valerie, or whatever my name was then, in whatever lifetime it was, and just here you go, just take it. And I said, you know what I said? I said, not over my dead body. Am I going down that clear, easy path? No, no, no. No, I want to do it my way. So you can just get out of here with you and the horse you rode in on, and I'm going to do it my way, and I'm going to struggle. And so then I started taking this big machete out, this old vision, and I just started hacking my way through this dense junk called life on Earth. And then I had my son, and it was like, you're coming with me. And I wrote him a note about this when I had the experience, and I said, I can't believe, I just want to apologize to you that I did that I brought struggle mentality to you when you were a little child, and you're like a sponge and you're soaking it up. And you know what he said to me? He said, you should have taken the clear road, Mom. I said, of course I should have. So that was really, really cool. So, now this is another thing. Okay, so then, what do you do when you see the cost of it? When I recognized that I was being angry and terrible and dishonest, I felt remorse. And I wept. And that was okay. Because then what's on the other side of it? And this is so important. This is the third part. Forgiveness. I had to forgive myself. My husband had to forgive me. And my husband had to forgive himself. Because he was the person who also, on his 100%, not mine, drove me away. So it's very complex, but it works. And when we feel, okay, so did you get those four? Did you get those four? Recognize, acknowledge, forgive, and change. I have a handout. If you just write to me, I will email it to you. It's called Payoffs. It's why we have negative reality creation that we can't get beyond no matter how we try, because we are holding on to different reasons for not, there's a deep, deep, deep reason that we don't want the joy. But yes, the reason I said no to that clear path was because I had an agenda. And my agenda was, I'll prove to you I can do it. Huh, easy? That's for sissies, right? Okay, so now this is the other thing. But then, of course, there were moments in this journey when I'm going to feel really sorry for myself. Oh, it's so hard. And I forget about the clear path. I just forget that I was offered the clear path. So you feel sorry for yourself. And then what happens when you feel sorry for yourself is you feel powerless. And when you feel powerless, the human being feels, anybody have a guess or anything? What do you think you feel when you feel powerless?
Worthless.
Say? Defeated. Mm-hmm. Yeah. And when you feel defeated, how does that make you feel?
Worthless.
Yeah, well there's a lot about shame, and I actually do a teleseminar, Beyond Shame I Deserve. It's really cool. But what you feel is rage. Rage. But I'm not talking about explosive anger where you throw things around and you beat a pillow or anything like that. No. When I finally met my rage, it was as hard as steel. And any negative emotion and even unfulfilled pleasure can feed rage. You can feel pissed about not having the pleasure that you're supposed to have. This world is our Disneyland. That's what it is. It's an adult Disneyland. We're supposed to be having fun. So one of the things, the reason I'm talking to you about that is because what I found is you have to have emotional intelligence. I was a healing practitioner trained for a year in emotional release technique. And guess what? When Ty first said to me, "How are you feeling right now?" I said, "Darn if I know." Okay, everybody, what's wrong with this picture? I didn't even know what I was feeling in the moment. So learning what your emotions are is very important to being honest. So then you bring that in there. Okay, so when you start to feel and release, there is a release technique, emotions, and you forgive yourself and you don't drag old wounds into your present moment, relationships will start to change. Okay, so there's one last part before I tell you about the handouts. And that is, so before I talked about, and I did it a little ahead of time, so I apologize, but I talked about God, Goddess, and there's a saying that I heard from Lazarus, who's a channeled being, and he called it, and when I heard it I went, that's the name I've been looking for my whole life. God, Goddess, all that is. Now I know everybody in here, I don't have to explain, what do you mean by God? Well, but I do want to. Is that okay if I just explain my definition of goddess to you? She is all that is. She is source itself. She is the womb from which everything came from. And that is why we're here, to actually reconnect with the feminine divine. But we're separate from her. They've taken that out of all the different, healing. I mean, it's coming about. But how do you connect? It's inside. It's all inside. And it's outside too. So the feminine divine is very important because this is why men are also sometimes, you go, why aren't they getting it? Because they were taught not to honor the feminine inside of themselves. And we all have it. You have masculine energy. You would not be in this room if you didn't have masculine energy. You had to get in your car and drive here. And that takes masculine energy to do something, right? So we all have both. But we don't understand that we need both, okay? So that's one of the things that I wanted to say. Okay, so now, you have something in a handout. You've got two things. Now we'll talk a little bit about it. What?
Not enough handouts.
I'm sorry.
Not enough handouts.
We only have 2 here at our table.
You don't. Yeah. Okay. Something happened. You should have a package with a staple on it. I think somehow or another some individual pages got handed out. So everybody, could you just make sure that everybody has a handout? Okay.
There's only 2 at this table.
Improving our, and you know what? If not, don't worry about it. You'll get it later. But it should be a package, stapled. And if you don't have that, you got the wrong thing, and so you've got to go see either Kathy or Sue or me afterwards, okay? One is called Improving Our Relationships. All right, now, I've given you all the ingredients for this process, okay, of how to create a fulfilling win-win relationship with anybody who's willing to do it with you. Of course, they have to be willing, right? So, I'm going to give you an example in real time of how my husband and I apply this on it. And the other thing, too, is that we used to be able to go for weeks or days not talking to each other because we were pissed. Now it takes us about 20 minutes. Oh, and another secret. If you don't resolve an issue in about 20 or 30 minutes, somebody's lying. That's the truth. Somebody's not telling you the truth. Because when both people are in truth, resolution happens in about 20 or 30 minutes. So that's a really great, thing to understand. Okay? So let me, and then you have a handout also called The Journey Begins Love. And this is true for any type of love in your life, including self-love. There are 7 separate, and you can see on the handout in the back, right? There are 7 action steps and 7 results. That is what a good relationship with yourself or others always creates. And in my work with clients, I take them so that they can actually really create this. Okay. So this is how it would go. My husband would call me from work, and he would say, honey, actually he doesn't call me honey, I call him honey. He goes, Valerie, would you take the garbage out because I've had a long day? I said, yes, of course I will. And then he comes home, and I got really busy. I had that client call me that needed my help, and all of a sudden he comes home and the garbage is still not taken out, right? This happens sometimes. So he would come in, and he would look at me and he would go, oh, and another thing, okay? Anytime you try to resolve in a relationship, you have to understand there are 2 types of emotions. I mean, there's like many emotions, but there's 2 categories: outward directed and inward directed. Does that make sense? So the outward directed is I'm angry at you for not listening to me, and I am also, and I'm hurt. I'm hurt that you disregarded me. And if you leave out one of those, what you leave out is 50% of the equation. So you're never going to get to resolution. So there's inward out. So this is an example of, okay, this is how he would say, Valerie, I really want our relationship to be clean and to move forward, and I love you very much. Okay, so here I am. Yep, all right. And what I really appreciate about you is how much you really care about our relationship and the house and the things that you do. It's okay. And what's really not working for me right now is you didn't take the garbage out and you said that you would. And by the time he gets to that, I'm not sitting there going, well, you know what? You're not realizing. I was busy. I had clients that needed me. So can't you be more compassionate? I go, oh, honey, you're right. I'm so sorry. And then he would say to me, well, I'm angry at you right now because I feel like that, like I called you to ask you to do it, and I don't ask you for a lot. That's true, he doesn't. And, you just didn't do it. And so I'm wondering, like, maybe you just take me for granted. Whoa! When's the last time I told you how much I appreciate everything you do? Okay, here's the opportunity right here. So you can actually resolve issues without defensiveness. I did this with my brother recently, and a 50-odd year embroiled antagonistic relationship, I had a solution with him within 10 minutes. 10 minutes for the first time in our lives. So like I said, this works with everybody. So the one thing that I want to say is, okay, write this down somewhere on there. On my website, on the events page, if you scroll all the way down, is a free audio by Lazarus called Awakening the Love. Because in the end, we know this, right? It's all about the love. It's all about the love. And when I found out that the love was actually inside of me already, and I didn't need, this is fun. When you know that love is inside of you, having a connection with another human being outside becomes the icing on the cake. So the other thing I want to leave with is, please, I'm going to ask you, one of the things that I do with my clients is I help them. And I'm going to ask you if you're willing to please help me today. And please sign up. Sign up on my events page on my website. So just you can write that down, www.valerielemme.com/events. And there's a sign-up box. If you could, because I have a free teleseminar that I'm offering next Tuesday night at 7:30, where I'm going to go in depth into how this can rock your world. And I'm not talking about rock it and then leave you high and dry. No, no, no. Permanent change. That's what this is all about. That's what it did for me. And I would love to have you understand these tenets, because then you can take it to other people and we can have a world that works for everyone. And I know that you guys know how priceless and beautiful that is. So on that note, please come see me at my table. Thank you so much for your time and attention. This was nothing short of absolute pleasure. Thank you.